Well, today we have another good guest and special guest, a good friend of mine from back at the University of South Alabama. Boy, it's been years. I think since 2016, since we last seen. I think that's the last time we seen each other in person, right? Or was it like 2017?
Yeah. Uh-huh. I think it's like 2016.
Okay,
Somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
man, it's been a long time. What is that? I mean, that's
Mm,
6 years. So,
Yeah.
goodness gracious. Well, I mean, Lex, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm excited about this episode. I mean, I got a bunch of friends who are thinking about well, I
Mhm.
call them friends, but I got a bunch of people I know that are thinking about going into nursing, and I think this would be a very educational episode. Especially, my wife is actually looking into nursing right now, so she's
Okay.
actively working towards the degree. So I'm just looking forward to the information that you're going to share, and hoping to be beneficial to everybody that listens to it. So just going to make space now for you to introduce yourself. Tell us where you grew up, where you went to high school, college, where you were, things like that. We want to know everything about you except your social security number.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Alexis Steele. I was born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm a graduate of Ramsey High School. I did the IB program there. I graduated from the University of South Alabama here in Mobile, December 2019, with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. I've been a nurse, it'll be 2 years, actually on Valentine's Day. I'm currently working at the USA, the University Medical Center here. I work on a GI post-op and cardiac medical surgical unit. So I take care of patients with any type of GI cancers. We also do like weight loss surgery patients. We get patients like they may come in, we prepare for get ready to do open heart surgery or get them from the ICU. Um, and then any like post-op patients, sometimes we go overflow of like medicine patients as well. So I've had a good experience with that. I'm the youngest of three girls. I have two older sisters, Nicole and Ashley. I have a niece and nephew now, Aiden. You remember Aiden?
Oh, I do
Um,
remember 80. Yeah.
who, then she had another child, Ava, who is 4 now. And then my dad is also a deacon at my home church, Avondale Church of Christ, where I was born and raised, grew up in. Um, and I'm just excited to be on the podcast to share my
Absolutely.
knowledge and my experience with all those interested in the nursing field.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think, like I said, I know that it's going to be a good one because just in case I didn't tell you guys, which I know I haven't because it's the first time that Lex is on the podcast. So I'm just going to
Mm,
take a quick walk down memory lane. When we
mm,
first got to South Alabama, I was a little too motivated and devoted to the weightlifting and less motivated and devoted
mm,
towards my studies. And this girl right here is a professional studier. I mean, I remember the going over to, her room to hang out with you. And I think Raina was her name, right? Or we call
Yeah,
her
right. I
Queen.
was texting her about the podcast too. Yeah, right now.
Yeah, like I just remember you having all of those biology note cards and you was like, well, we can hang out, but you gotta call out the cards first. And I'm like, goodness gracious, like we gotta go over these biology cards.
Mhm,
And eventually I knew more about your stuff than my own stuff. So a lot of this stuff that I've learned has transpired and throughout my life, and now I consider
mhm,
myself a better studier and a more focused and
mhm,
diligent student. But definitely have to be, reprimanded along the way, and so I thank you for that. Thank you for the
no
constructive
problem.
criticism and discipline. Fine disciplinarian you are. I have to say that. But I do appreciate your friendship, and it has been a rewarding experience over the years. So without further ado, we're just gonna try to go ahead and jump in to the first question because again, we just have some meaty stuff that we want to talk about, and really
Mhm,
just questions that deserve a practical answer because people who are getting into nursing, I mean, they
mhm,
only know what they hear from other people and it's sort of
mhm,
these textbook answers, and then also what they may read on the internet. So, I mean, how good is that information? I don't know, but we're going to try to get us as best we can today with the information that we share. So, the first
mhm.
question I have for you, all right, why did you, number one, why did you decide on a career in nursing?
Well, originally I wanted to become a pediatrician, a doctor, but I realized it was like too much school, way too much responsibility, and so I was like, what else do I want to do? So I was like, I always had a natural nick for helping people. And whenever I see like family members getting sick, I was like, what can I do to help? And I also want to do like the hands-on experience, the hands-on patients and meeting different people. So nursing it was. I changed my major right before I came to the South, and I love it. I love being a nurse. I've taken care of patients for like weeks and even months at times.
Man.
And so I love it.
So I got to ask, I mean, most people go into like, say, you ask these high school kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, or for the guys, they might say, I want to be a professional athlete. And then you ask why? Well, for the money. I mean, would you say that there was some incentives towards the money why you wanted to be a nurse, or was it just totally to help people? Because these are true questions that people may have. And I mean, what are your take on that?
It was a small percentage of the money because nursing is such a flexible field. You can do bedside nurse, you can do clinic, home health, hospice. So you're always gonna find a job in nursing, but eventually you're gonna get burned out. It's like the money is not gonna be worth it anymore. So you have to. I always tell people, do not go into nursing solely for the money. I mean, the money is good, but eventually you'll get burned out. So I have a passion for it because it's like some days I was like, oh, I don't want to go to work. I'm not feeling it. But then I have to think about it. I have my patients there. That's who I'm here for. So I leave everything negative at the door and I walk in like I'm here for my patients. So I say, yes, it's a good thing to go because you always want to pick a career where you can easily move around, easily can find a job. And nursing, like I said, is that. Like you can stay at home, you can go travel. Like I said, you do clinic work, you do bedside, which is hospital nursing, you do home health, you do hospice, different types of stuff.
Right. So whereas nursing is flexible, you do have to have a great deal of passion in order to be in the field. Man,
because you have to think about it. If that was your mom or dad as a patient, you don't want somebody just in it for the money. Just like, I'm just here to get my money. You want to have somebody that's passionate.
Right.
And so being like had family members, different health issues, especially my mom, I've seen like her have really good nurses and not so great nurses, where the attitude wasn't as great.
Right.
So, and I appreciate those nurses who were great to her, who listened to her, who voiced their concerns.
Right. I mean, I love that.
And also a good thing about nursing, you know, I'm with my patients 12, 13 hours at a time. So I'm right there with them. As opposed to, you know, not bashing like doctors and things. They're in there for a few minutes and then they're gone.
Right.
But as far as nursing, you're there for 12, 13 hours. Like I said, some days, weeks, even months. I have a patient now who's been there since November. I've been taking care of her since November. And it's halfway through January now. So
goodness.
Yeah.
I love the way you just explained or sort of illustrated for us the amount of time that a doctor usually spends with the patient versus a nurse, because I mean, I've seen it, but I've never heard it explained that way. You like, oh, well, a doctor they come in for a few moments and they sit down and talk with you and really just reiterate what the nurse already kind of told you, but they maybe they go into a little bit more detail, but the nurse is there with you every step of the way. And I think, like you stated, I think that does require a lot of passion, a lot of patience, and
definitely. Yeah.
And even passion and patience, like people that obtain those character traits, they want to feel some sort of reward or some sort of incentive. So I got to ask you, like, what do you find most rewarding about a career as a nurse?
Well, like I was saying just a little minute ago, when I have a patient who's been there since November. You know, she came in not feeling great. They're trying to figure out what's going on. They finally found what's going on and was in the right process. And now she's back. She had, I think, 2 surgeries since she's been there. She's back up, walking around, walking the hallways, talking to nurses, doing things for herself. And I think that's the most rewarding part, is having the patient come in, not at their best, or they get there, they kind of go downhill and then they get back to normal. And that's one thing I like about my, especially medical surgical, and I like in like ICU, because ICU send when they're at their sickest and they go to med surg for. You don't necessarily see them when they get discharged. But in my specialty, you kind of see them the whole timeline.
Man. Okay.
They may get sick, they may go to ICU, but eventually they'll come back.
Could you sort of maybe explain like or elaborate a little bit more on like what ICU means, just for people who may not know?
So ICU is intensive care unit. So it's basically if you get super sick and you need close monitoring. Because most of our like we get vital signs like blood pressure, temp every 4 hours, or like assess like how alert a horse every 4 hours. But ICU, it may be every hour, every 2 hours.
Mm.
Well, you're so sick because on my floor I can get up to 6 patients at a time. And if I have a very sick patient, I can't focus all my time on them because I have 5 other patients. As opposed to the ICU, they may have 1 or 2 other patients and they have more time to spend with them. So if they get really sick on our floor, as been a couple times, I have to transfer them to ICU where they can get close to monitoring, they can heal better and then come back to our floor and then get ready to go home.
And so then, like, once they come back, would they still be put back in your care after you were the nurse who transferred them, or would they be
So
put
most
onto
of the
someone else?
time, yes, because we're familiar with them, and depending how long I've been taking care of them, be like, oh, I had this patient before, I kind of know how they are, what their routine is. So most time we'll take them back.
Right.
Most time they've been on the floor so long, the other nurses kind of get to know them too and take care of them. So it all depends.
Okay. I mean, it seems good that way because I mean, I guess after, like you stated, you work 12, 13 hours with someone, you want to feel somewhat comfortable with them. I mean, especially if
Yeah.
you're going to see them throughout your time being hospitalized and stuff like that. But I mean, one thing that sort of crossed my mind is when you work with someone that closely, I mean, when you think about people in general, it's hard to please people. That is, give them everything that might make them happy. Sometimes, I mean, even when you don't try to, you may make them upset. So I want to talk about this idea of like, after being around people for taking care and administering to the individual needs of various patients, have you ever faced someone who was just unhappy for whatever reason with your patient care? And if so, how did you deal with that?
Well, this happens more often. It happens all the time. And you just kind of have to like reassure them, like, hey, I tried my best. I've done everything I could. It's on my end, there's nothing more that I can do. And in this sense, that's what we have, like, you go up the chain of command. So at night, our nurse manager is not there at night, but we do have like clinical administrators that's there that we can call them. Like, hey, you can speak with them. Maybe they can get you more answers. And then we also have patient relations, which they advocate on. They can call them and tell them. But honestly, there's been times where like there's absolutely nothing else that I can do. Like it's in the doctor's hands and who's above me. So at this point, I just can't do anything.
So I guess like for some people, like, and I love how you put it, like sometimes you just can't do anything. Do you think that some of the problems that may occur is not maybe a sort of technical problem, that is a problem that you're doing wrong as it relates to your job? But do you think maybe there's a personality conflict sometime? I mean, is that ever an issue when it comes to being a nurse? Maybe the personality doesn't click from the caretaker to the one who's receiving care.
I mean, yeah, it has happened. I had a patient where our personality just didn't match. Just didn't get along. Or they may be not feeling so well. They may not be in the best of mood. And I'm like, most of them, I'm cheery, happy person. And, they'll come in like, hey, how you doing? Coming in like 2:00 in the middle of the night. And they just like, what are you doing? So sometimes that does happen. Like you just don't mix well with the person. And in that case, you just have to switch nurses for the next shift. Maybe get switched with another nurse. Like, hey, we just didn't click. Do you mind taking care of this patient? I'll take care of whatever patient you may not click with, or we'll switch out, something like that.
And so, like, do other nurses, I mean, I guess this is just a random question that came to my mind too. I mean, you've mentioned the other nurses that you work with, and if your personality doesn't click with the person that's receiving care from you, I mean, is it just as easy as just to walk over and say, hey, could we switch, because I'm just not clicking with this particular patient and I want them to enjoy the care that they're receiving? Is it just that easy, or some sort of protocol?
Most of the time, yes. And then a lot of times, if the patient necessarily isn't happy with their nurse, they'll request another nurse. Like, hey, is this same nurse coming back in the morning or tonight? We're like, yes, they'll probably get you back. And they'll be like, well, I don't want, is it possible for me to have another nurse? And so they'll come, and most time I'm charge nurse at night, which I make assignments for the other nurses. They'll be like, they'll make a note, like day shift nurse, hey, this patient in this room doesn't want this person take care of him? Is there a way we can switch? I'm like, well, I'll take care of him, or ask one of the other nurses, hey, do you mind taking care of this patient? Because it was some like issues.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, a patient has the right to refuse care. They don't have to stay at the hospital. They can leave. So, and then if they're not happy at this particular hospital, they have every right to leave. We don't force anybody to stay. Like we try to encourage them, try to get the doctor involved, talk to them, but at the end of the day, if they're unhappy, then like I said, there's nothing else we can do. So
I mean, and I mean that makes perfect sense. I mean, you're an adult, and you have the right to leave and come as you please, and that's kind of the issue that I want to touch, because the thing that crossed my mind when you mentioned that you could sort of switch with other nurses, or if a nurse is told like by a patient, I don't want care to be, cared for by you. Can I get someone else? I mean, how do you recommend dealing with that? As a young nurse, how do you recommend dealing with that and not getting this sort of jealous or envious attitude towards the other nurse who may be able to, assist this person in this, and their care is now beneficial to the one that you just tried so hard to benefit?
The first time that happened to me, like I said, I was a new nurse, and I was just like, why because I'm with everybody. I was like, why did they want a different nurse? But at the end of the day, like I said earlier, sometimes you just don't click with everybody. Sometimes you, like I said, your personality may not match with them. They're sick, so they might not be in the best mood, so it may not match. You just kind of have to sit back and think that you can't take it personal all the time, because if you take every case personal, it starts to affect your mental health, which is not good. Which is being a nurse, you have to kind of have not 100% intact, perfect mental health, but it has to be kind of up there, because you want to be in the right mind to take, because essentially you're responsible for somebody else's life during that 12, 13 hours. And like I said, I can have up to 6 patients, so I'm responsible for 6 lives during that night. So I just learned to kind of not take it personally and kind of brush it off. Because I've been almost a nurse 2 years. It's still sometimes some patients still get to me like, well, they said this way. I don't know why they treated me their way. I'm like, I don't know what I did wrong. But at the end of the day, I know I did all I can. I know I did my job. So kind of have to move on to the next one.
Right. I mean, that's a strong and very an attitude of perseverance when you think about it, because it is hard. That's a long time to provide care for a person who may not be so easy to deal with. And I just use that for lack of a better term. But I mean, the question that I have now for you, after, just sort of stand on this talk or discussion about emotions and feelings when you're dealing with patients who may not be so easy to deal with, but just the job of nursing in general. Like, how do you emotionally regulate yourself? Like, how do you maintain this balance of caring for your patient without becoming too attached to your patient?
That's one thing I still struggle with to this day. Because like I said, I was going back to this patient who I've been taking care of since November. We've developed a relationship together. Like, whenever I come in, we have like a certain routine that we do. I come give her medicine at this time. Like, hey, I need this done. This happened. We do this to change it out. So that's something I struggle with. But at the end of the day, I kind of have to remember, it's my passion, but it's also my job. So I can't take that home with me. I kind of have to, like I said, when I come to work, leave whatever I have going on at home at the door. Then when I leave work, leave whatever I have at the door. Like, so I really struggled with that at the beginning. Like, I was kind of bringing my emotions because I was a new nurse. So I know how to handle it. But now, kind of almost 2 years in, I kind of balance that a little bit better.
Right.
Because like I said, with this patient, when I go back to work tomorrow night, I don't know if she'll still be there. She might have got discharged. So I was kind of a little sad when I got off Friday morning, because I was like, you take care of her for 3-4 months and seeing her get better. And I was like, it's going to be sad not seeing her every night as I come to work. So.
Right. And I mean, I guess it's sort of one of those bittersweet moments, right? Like, man, we formulated this relationship and I'm happy you're better, but at the same time, it's like, nah, I know you, and
I don't want you to
not
leave.
just disconnected. Yeah, like I totally get that. And I'm glad you even put it that way. Like, it's things that you may experience at work, you can't allow it to steal time from your home life. And
Mm-hmm.
like you, I too struggle with that. Sometimes things may get a little hectic, and of course I'm just sort of contemplating on stuff when I get home, or I may check out from home life and I'm still in work mode. It's like, man, how in the world do I
Yeah.
check back out of work mode? It's kind of like when you go to work, you clock in, right? And that means
Mm-hmm.
this is now work mode. And then you clock
Mm-hmm.
out, but your brain hasn't clocked out, even though you've actually punched out from
Yeah.
work and you just carry it home with you. I mean, it is difficult to do. And that's kind of why, like, when I thought about this question, I really had a hard time trying to answer this from my perspective because I'm not good at it. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, however you answer it, please, because I need the knowledge for myself. But how do you handle the stress of your job? I mean, you mentioned that it's possible to burn out. So I want to ask about, like, how do you manage that stress? How do you handle it?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you avoid burnout when it's very much possible?
So this is my see. I have three letters, and it's like a acronym. PTO. Use it while you can. Um, when you feel yourself getting burned out and it's time, start putting in requests for time off. Take a day here, take a couple days here. You need more than kind of your scheduled off days. And I think that's because when I first started, I was like 6, 7 months in, I was dreading going to work every night. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I can't. And so I checked my hours. I was like, oh, I have like 60 some hours. I took like a week off from work, kind of got refreshed, came back ready to go. So please, I encourage everybody, no matter what job you do, use your vacation time. Because when
Right.
you leave the job, it's not going to go with you. So use it. Like I said, I build it up. Like I work, let it build up, and then because I'm taking a couple of days off next month in February. So I work a little bit, let it build up, take my time off, come back to work, refresh, work a little bit more, take some more time off. Like don't work 6, 7 months straight without taking a vacation. That's how it
Man,
was when I first started. And I was starting to get burned out.
man,
So
I love
definitely
that.
take advantage of that vacation time. First, sometimes you're just not feeling going into work. And it's been a couple times like, don't be scared to call in if you just can't do it. Because like I said, with nursing, you're responsible for other people's lives in that shift. So if you're not in the right mind, how you think you're gonna take care of somebody else? So you want to be 100%. You want to be real rested. You want your mind to be in a great state. So
Right.
use that PTO. It's a
Man.
wonderful thing.
Yeah, no, I
Because
love
people
that.
always say, they say, you always taking vacation. I say, yeah, because if you don't, no matter where you work at nursing, if you don't take the time off, you're going to get burned out because it's such a stressful job. And I just work on a regular medical surgical floor, so I can imagine what ER nurses and ICU nurses have to deal with on a daily basis. Now, those 2 areas I can't work in.
Right.
ER is too much. My anxiety is too bad for the ER. I can't deal with.
Yeah.
And ICU, seeing patients sick like that all the time, I can't do it every night. So,
Right. No, that is, I've never heard anyone put it like that because
mhm,
my motto, my mantra, if you will,
mhm,
has always been work more than you break. And so even now, I can't lie to you, I'm not good at that. And in fact, I think
mhm,
since I've been here almost 3 years, it'll be 3 years in July, and I've only taken two, maybe three. I've taken vacation maybe 3 times, I think.
mhm,
And they were relatively short. I've never been going a week,
mhm.
and I don't think
Yeah.
I've never been going 5 to 6 days consecutively. But either way, it's like I do, I do hear what you're saying. I think that it is a proper response to burnout because it's like, okay, you're taking the time to give your
Mhm,
mind a break
mhm,
from the constant, hustle and bustle of daily work life and dealing with,
mhm,
people who can be a little bit stressful. And so,
mhm,
I mean, it's just, like I said, it's just something that maybe people who come from families that, they
mhm,
try to confide in them and say, like, oh, I'm tired. And I know for me, my family sometimes may be a little rough. I'm not just saying my family here, but just overall back in the Southeast, they may say,
mhm,
like, oh, you too young to be tired. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I mean, what is your take on that? Like when someone says like you're too young to be tired, you gotta
I
work.
think that's like a black thing. Like you always hear, like we always talk about that. Like I've heard that from people. Like, all you do is just go to school. And I'm just like, y'all don't understand how hard, especially nursing. And whew, that experience. I'm just like, it can be draining mentally. So that's something we gotta change.
Yeah,
Like is tired doesn't have an age limit.
that's true. Boy, I love girl. You giving some quotes today.
You
I'm
could be
telling you.
you could be tired at 16, you could be tired at 36. It doesn't, I mean, if you're working hard at 16, you can still get burned out and still get, because like I said, I was going back to high school. I did IB my last 2 years of high school. And no 17, 18-year-old teenager should be that stressed out, especially my senior year of high school, because I'm getting ready to go off to college, trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. I was a part of the first IB, which is I go back to IB is like international baccalaureate, it was an international known school, and they kind of prep you for college. And I was a part of the first class of IB at my high school. So they're still trying to figure out how to run the program at the same time, trying to teach us all this material. So yeah, I was definitely I was tired
Man,
and
see,
stressed out. And I didn't even make it to college yet. I was, like I said, my junior and senior year of high school.
yeah. And I mean, I believe it's supposed to be levels to it. You don't want to
Mhm.
have the stress of a nurse when you're not even a nurse yet. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you're preparing to
Yeah.
be one, but it's like, why am I stressing like someone who's already on the battlefield when I'm just in training? You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I mean, I think again, those misconceptions and those responses to people when they confide in you and say they're tired can be very detrimental to not only their physical health, but as you stated before, their
Mhm.
mental health. So definitely want to be aware of that. I mean, the next question I have, like I've heard from various people. So like
Mhm.
I would use my mother for example. I did ask her. She was a nurse for a great amount of years. I can't remember the exact number, but when I asked her, I said, "What was the hardest thing about nursing to you?" And
Mhm.
she specifically told me that one of the hardest things was remembering the medication, remember all of the medication and charting. So she emphasized charting, which I'm curious
Yeah.
to know a little bit more about that. I don't know a lot about that. And the second thing was she had a difficult time finding making time to eat when she would work her 12 to 13-hour shift. And my mom worked
Mhm.
overnight too. So I'm
Yeah.
curious of what I'm curious about your take on that. Like, what is the most difficult part about being a nurse, in your opinion?
So to me, I'm kind of going on the emotional side of it. And that's going back to where I said, when you've done all you can for a patient and there's nothing more you can do, I think that's the hardest part to me as a nurse. It's like I've talked to this person, I talked to that person on behalf of my patient, and there's absolutely nothing more that we can do. And seeing your patient like react to that, that's what I think is the hardest part to me. And definitely I've taken care of like end of life care patients. Like we at my hospital, we have like an inpatient hospice thing now.
Okay.
And I've had patients pass on me, and that's kind of a hard thing too.
Man.
Or taking care of patients for long periods of time, then I hear that they passed away after like going home. And so I want to go back to what your mom was saying about like the charting and medications. Um, we have so much stuff that we have to do. People don't realize it within a 12, 13-hour period. So as far as like charting, you have to do assessments. Like you go in, like let's see patient's chest and stomach. You kind of do like an overall like view of them. So if something changes throughout the shift, it's like, well, at the beginning of my shift when I saw them, they wasn't like that. So what I do is I have like a little sheet that I have, which other it's at work,
Mhm.
and I plan out my shift. So I go back like each patient. So they get medicine at this time at night and then again at this morning. If I have to do like any like wound care, dressing changes, anything like that, I put that on my to-do list. And I put like all the different charting that I have to do. I put that in one section and I check it off as I go. Because I know how my mind is. I forget a lot of stuff. So that kind of keeps me organized. So I don't make sure I don't forget anything. So that I'm not leaving on the next person coming in behind me.
Okay.
Another thing that so nursing is like a 24-hour thing. You may not be able to get everything done within your shift. You try to do everything you can, but sometimes you just have to pass along to the next shift because you couldn't get that done within a certain amount of time. Or if the doctor, they may not necessarily want to do anything at that period, and so they'll pass along to the next person. So,
Right. I mean,
and remember,
but
so one thing that in nursing school, you have to remember all these medicines, like what they do. A lot of times when you go into the hospital, on the charts, they have a reference guide. So if you may not be familiar with a medication or you may forget it that you knew in nursing school, you can click on it. So before you go into the patient's room and they ask, well, what does this medicine do? You can click on it. Be like, oh, this is like blood pressure, this is your anxiety medicine. So that you can be prepared to go in and talk to the patient.
that's
So it's
helpful.
okay. So it's okay if you don't remember all the medicines in nursing school. There's always it's gonna be a reference guide somewhere
Right.
at your hospital. And it's even in the charting system.
Well, that's helpful. I mean,
So yeah.
I've never been a nurse, and I'm not aspiring to become one. But I mean, I know that that's a daunting task to have to remember so much stuff. I mean,
Mhm.
I've went through human anatomy level one. Just going through that class, I can't imagine what nursing school is like. So, the thing that I wanted to ask really quick was, after you mentioned like how you set up your chart, is there a level of flexibility that you get to sort of make your own schedule, if you will, like while you're at work? I mean, I know you have a set time frame to be there, but as far as like making your schedule, like what you get done and checking off stuff so you can remember, is there a certain amount of flexibility that the job allows for you to do that?
In some cases, yes. But always sometimes the shift might get hectic. You may not have always had the time to sit down and like plan it out. But you try to like at the beginning. That's why it's always good to arrive a little bit earlier because my shift was from 7, starts at 7 technically. I usually get to work around 6:40. That way I come in, get all my stuff, get organized, get reported my patients, and then plan out what I'm going to do. Most of the time I'm able to do that. But sometimes, especially if they have like a bad like day shift that's gone bad, it kind of sometimes overflows into the night. So you may not be able to sit down and plan out till a couple hours later if you have
Okay.
to take care of some things. So most of the time you're able to do that, but sometimes you'll have those days or nights where it's just like you can't. You have to just kind of go with the flow.
Right. I mean, you got to be
Most of the time
flexible.
for my sake, for like my anxiety to say, it helps that I kind of write everything down. That's how I remember things too.
Okay.
That's what
Right.
helped me get through school is like writing everything down. Like you mentioned note cards. That's how I remember. My grandma always told me when I was studying in high school and college, she said, put your note cards under your pillow.
Mm.
Now I don't know how much that actually worked, but I still did it. And I always did good on my exams and stuff like that.
You were successful in the end, so
So
hey,
yeah.
the method must have worked, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you mentioned school. I kind of want to walk back now. So we've talked about
Mhm,
the career. Now I want to
mhm,
talk about the training field, right? So there are some people who maybe, they're listening and like, well, wait a minute, I haven't even gone through school yet, and we're talking about,
mhm,
actual nursing stuff. We're talking about in the career of nursing and being in the field. I mean, what about school? How do I make it through school? So, Lex, how was your
mhm.
experience in nursing school, and like, what
Whew.
practical advice can you give
So
for the prospective current nursing
I'll
student?
start off. One thing I want to say, don't be afraid to fail in nursing school. Because some people think, oh, I failed this, I'm going to be a bad nurse. So kind of get that out your head. So my applying to nursing school, my freshman year after finishing at South, I applied for the early acceptance program, which if you meet all the requirements, they basically save your seat in nursing school to get ready to finish all your prereqs. But you have to keep up like a certain grade point average. So for the most part, I did that. Then I got to a class called infectious diseases. Did not do great in that class. I passed by like the university standards, but by nursing school, I didn't pass. So they kind of had to give my seat away. So I had to reapply. So that's like getting even started nursing school was kind of a roller a roller coaster for me. So I did a grade replacement, took a class called microbiology, made A in the class. They kind of replaced that other grade. So I reapplied, got to nurse school. I originally supposed to start fall of 2017. I didn't start nurse school till spring of 2018. So I did the first couple of semesters. Then I got to my third semester of nurse school, which is like my OB and PD semester. My dad had got sick. That's when he had stroke. Also, my aunt was sick. She wasn't doing well. And I ended up failing that semester. So in my nurse school, a passing grade is a 69.5 or above. I made a 68 in that class. So I had to fail, retake it. Came back next semester, made a B in the class. Did twice as bad as I was. And I think during that semester, that's why mental health is very important. Even before, like you on the field, but also in school too. Like I said, I wasn't there mentally. Like I said, my dad was sick. My aunt was doing bad. My mom's sister, eventually she ended up passing the spring of next year. So that was difficult. So during that time, I kind of questioned, was like, do I still want to do nursing? But like I said, going back, I had that passion. So like I said, it was a martial roller coaster, but I made through the last few semesters. I did good. And my advice to those wanting to do nursing school, first of all, get you a planner. Write everything down. Even if you think it's not important, write it down. Color coded by your different classes in nursing school. So this is like, so say pink is like my patho class. Purple is like health administration. Write down your due dates, when your exams are, when your checkouts are. Get you a good study group. Hold every person in that study group accountable. Like me and my friends from my nursing school group chat, we still talk to this day. And in that group chat, we will say, hey, this assignment is due on this day. Hey, did y'all do this? Hey, y'all want to get together and study on this day? Study guides. Like I said, when I failed that class in OB and Peds, the next semester I took the study guide that they gave us and I broke down each topic. So this topic I'm gonna study on this day. This topic I'm gonna do that day. I broke it up. And so on the night before, I was just reviewing. I didn't cram anything. All I was doing, I didn't learn anything new. All I did was reviewing what I had learned the previous week. And also from failing that semester, I also learned to cut my study time down. Because I used to wake up 9, 10 o'clock in the morning and we'd be studying until 9, 10 o'clock at night. I changed it. So I would get up probably like 9 or 10 in the morning and I'll be done studying by 4 o'clock. That was like the latest. And so after that, I was either doing like other homework assignments or I was reviewing what I learned. And so I started dating my boyfriend my first semester in nurse school. And so throughout the semesters, I would teach him best in a sense what I was studying. You know, he could be like playing his game or whatever, and I'll just be talking to him about whatever I was studying. He didn't necessarily have to like listen or pay attention closely, but me just talking it out helped me a lot better.
Right.
Also, I should say this first. Pray. It's a powerful thing. Always read your scripture. Going back to my mom, she would text me every day. She always send me Philippians 4:13 in her text. She'd be like, hey, good morning, baby girl. And she'll send me, text me that. And I always in my head recite, my favorite scripture is Romans 8:28, which means that everything works out for a purpose. So as I was like stressing, I was like, it's got to be something that's going to be for my great good. So it's like, I'm in nursing for a reason. It's my passion, is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So that's what kept me motivated. Nurse school. My mom, my family, my church family from back home, church family down here in Mobile, my friends outside of nursing school, and then my friends in nursing school.
Right.
And though my friends in nursing school, because they're going through the same struggle I'm going through, they know how it is. So we kind of just roll along together, struggle together. And like I said, we all made it. We're all nurses now. Like I said, we still talk to this day. Two of them are doing travel nursing now. I think one is in New Orleans. I think the other may be in like New Mexico or something like that.
Man,
So,
that's what's up.
I
That's
think,
what's up.
yeah. So yeah, that's my, like I said, you got to keep pushing. You'll make it. It's going to be hard. And if your program has it where you can drop a class as many times as you want without being penalized, do that. Because you don't want to be like me, thought I can make it, end up not passing. As far as like dropping, you can do it without having that penalty on your record.
Mm, I
So,
like that. You know, one the I think something that you mentioned that sort of surprised me was you after you failed a class,
mhm,
you came back and realized that you needed to cut down on your
mhm,
study time, and that all it
mhm.
almost seemed like a paradox to me. Like I'm like, man, if I fail something, it seems like I need to study more, but
You
you
see, like
actually
you say
realized
more,
to cut down.
like, and what I mean by not necessarily like still study every day,
Right.
but don't study for 10, 11 hours, study all day and all night.
Mm,
And one thing I also learned, this is even before I got to nurse school, don't cram on the night before, never ever do it. What you should be doing is reviewing what you've already been studying the past few days. Because you don't want to go in, stand up to 2 o'clock in the morning trying to learn something new. Because we trying to put something new in your head, all the stuff that you already knew is gone.
right.
Because you kind of remember most recently what you studied. And so if you're reviewing everything recently, not before, you kind of can go and do a lot better.
No, I like that. I mean, that gave me something to think about because as a current student, like I don't want to be
Mhm,
so consumed with school and
mhm,
stuff like that that maybe I mean, well, obviously is going to stress you out that I can't live my life too. You know what I mean?
exactly.
So that's
Um,
definitely helpful.
Also, a good book that I actually didn't buy this book till I started studying for the NCLEX is the Saunders NCLEX
Saunders.
Prep book, and you
Okay.
can get it on Amazon. And I recommend getting that when you first start because it breaks down the different like body systems and different topics, and also has review questions after each section. And then it has like a comprehensive set of questions in the back of the book that you can do. I always do practice questions. Those always help me a lot to study. When you graduate, if you're working, save money because the NCLEX is not cheap
Mm,
at all. And luckily, thank God for me, I had two of my uncles when they was giving me graduation gifts. They actually gave me all the money I needed to pay for my NCLEX because I wasn't working. My parents didn't have a lot of money, so I was like kind of stressed out, like how I'm going to pay for the NCLEX. And I know in the state of Alabama, you're looking at least $300 just for paying for the test to take it. It was something else. Yeah. So do the practice questions, do the reviews. That helped me a lot too. Also, if you can get some experience in the hospital while you're in nurse school, whether it's like being a CNA or like doing like my program did co-op program where you can work while being in school, you get paid for it. You have to do like a certain amount of hours, and you can go basically be like a patient assistant in a
okay.
hospital. So
Yeah,
I
that
see
makes
that
sense.
because like my only hospital experience that I had before nurse school was my clinicals.
Mm,
I have been and I wish I would have done something along that. I wish I would have done the co-op program while I was in nursing school.
right. Right. You know, I'm
And
actually
actually,
glad.
yeah, you actually make money for it. Like it's actually like your job, but you're also getting experience for nursing school as well.
Well, that's good. I mean, at least you get
Yeah,
paid to get experience. I mean, that's good.
yeah.
I mean, I'm actually glad you just brought up the clinicals. That was
Mhm,
a major question that I know that my wife actually had, and she came up with this.
mhm,
Well, she actually came up with this question. Like, do you believe your clinicals were adequate preparation for nursing in the field,
mhm.
or no?
So I think yes, I do think there it prepares you, but you actually don't get your real preparation to your own field.
Mm,
Till you get the experience. Experience is probably going to be your number one preparation as becoming a nurse. Clinicals you do, it was like my first experience hands-on with patients. Like just going in, just say, hey, how you doing? How you feeling today? How's your day? Just those simple questions, getting me comfortable talking with patients. Because up into clinicals, nurse school, you're essentially working on a mannequin or doing like case studies in your classes. But when you get to clinicals, it's like the real deal, like patients. These patients are actually like sick in the hospital, so you kind of figure out. And then, like I said, that got me comfortable talking with patients and not having so much anxiety or being nervous because if you walk in, your patient sees that you're nervous, it's like, how are you gonna take care of me when you just this nervous wreck? So I do think the clinicals does prepare you, but your real experience is when you graduate and get on the field and start working.
Right. I mean, it
Mhm,
sounds feasible because you know what? Before I
mhm,
had my before we had our first child, of course you get all the advice that you
mhm,
can ask for and you get all the
mhm.
advice that you don't ask for. But
Yeah.
nothing prepares you like having that child because I mean
Mhm,
everything that you read and I read a bunch of books, read a lot of articles, but nothing prepares you like having
mhm,
the actual child and experience is the best teacher in many cases, but I mean
mhm,
Lex, I just gotta ask this. I mean, this is my last question for you. I've
mhm,
thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I've got some great tidbits of information to pass along to my wife for sure,
mhm,
and I hope that everyone else have benefited from the episode thus far. But the last one I think is probably one of the most important because it is a great achievement to be a nurse. But as you stated and listening to you talk, it was also great. A lot of ups and downs, sort of valleys that you had to go through to
mhm,
become a nurse. And I want to talk about that. Like what helped you through nursing school? What or who helped you through
mhm.
nursing school?
First, God and my faith. Like it definitely got stronger when I was nurse school because, like I said, it was draining at times. I go back mentioning my mom. I will oftentimes because I was 4 hours from home, so only time I would see my mom is on FaceTime. So I will be calling her crying. She was like, you're gonna struggle for a little bit, but the end is gonna be a reward. Your reward is coming. So you just kind of gotta, cry a little bit, get out the way, but get back to work. Like I said, going back to my favorite scripture, which is Romans 8:28, realizing that I'm here for a purpose. Like I may not see it right now, but I'm gonna get there. Like I said, going back, I started dating my boyfriend my first semester in nursing school. So he kind of seen me like in my worst, like going through all this. So oftentimes I would come home like crying to him, like stressed out, just having him there to like listen. Not necessarily like talking back, but just listening, hearing me vent like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. Like I gotta study for this, I got this check off, I gotta do this. And then like when I'm studying, talking out my material to him, like as I'm the teacher and I'm teaching him my material. So that's like I said, my church family back home, my church family here. Like I said, my friends in nursing school, my friends outside nursing school. Um, but yeah, that's how I got through it.
Well,
Like
absolutely. Yeah.
I said, don't be afraid to fail. Don't let that hold you back. Because sometimes the best nurses now are the ones who didn't necessarily do the greatest in school. So
Mm,
don't think it's good to have the grades in nurse school. That is because it's that foundation, but don't be discouraged if you're not making all A's all the time.
right.
Because I didn't
Right.
make all A's all the time. It was a mixture of things, but my grades weren't bad, but they weren't how I want them to be.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's what your patients think of you and how you're taking care of them. Are you providing them with the best care that you can? That's
Right.
all that matters in the end.
Man, I love that. And I love how you just shared like you were so
Mhm,
transparent and sharing like your grades weren't how you had imagined them to be
mhm,
or how you wanted them to be. And don't be afraid to fail. I mean, that's just something so
mhm,
big for our
mhm,
generation in general. Like once I fail,
mhm,
it feels like now I'm a failure, but failing doesn't dictate the person you are. I mean, you just get up
mhm,
and keep trying. So I mean, I
mhm,
definitely appreciate that. Thank you for being an open book. Thank you
mhm.
for sharing and thank you for educating us. I mean, I
No
thoroughly
problem.
enjoyed the episode so much.
And all the people that you say are interested in nursing school, you give them my information. I'm not because you get some people they come to ask you questions they don't want. I'm not like that. I'm
Hmm.
transparent. Anything you want to know, I'm here to tell you. So please give them my information. I don't care. They can text, Facebook me, call me, or whatever. I'm here. I still have my notes, still have my laptop from nursing school. So anything they need, I have to pass along to them.
Well, hey, man. Well, there you have it. There you have it. I love that. Thank you so much, Lex, for accepting the invitation and being on the podcast today.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.